Welcome back everybody to the Wandering Samurai Study, in which we review and analyze every single act told in Rurouni Kenshin, and today's act is... There is no act. We're doing a reflections video on the Raijuta story. The whole reason that I decided to do this video is because I feel that the Raijuta story is a lot different from everything that we've talked about so far. Raijuta is known as one of Watsuki's failed villains or failed characters. The result of Raijuta did not live up to the vision that he initially set up to have with him, if that makes sense. And because of that, I don't look at the Raijuta story back with fondness. It kind of just feels as something that I need to get through in order to get to the good stuff, you know? The Oniwaban is fun. It's a nice story about saving somebody who really needs help, who has all of the best intentions and is trying to do her best, but has been forced into a world of trouble, and she's being strong-armed into creating drugs that are killing people rather than saving people the way that she was brought up to do. The Jine stuff, it's interesting in just that we get to see the inverse of Kenshin, another Hitokiri, but with the intention of killing because he loves to kill, versus Kenshin, who did it because he was trying to lead in a new way of life, the result in the Meiji and stuff. And subsequently, both of these stories end with death, which is kind of just what Kenshin is trying to prevent from happening. So in a way, it's almost like he fails at these missions, and with Raijuta, I guess he succeeds, but it doesn't feel like a victory the way that it's felt in the previous acts, because the whole point of the Jine stuff was to save Kaoru, which he does, and Kaoru helps along with, you know, saving. She saves herself by breaking Jine's spell, and she also inadvertently saves Kenshin from reverting back to the manslayer and slaying, which was also kind of the conflict there. And with the Oniwaban stuff, Kenshin didn't, you know, set out to save the Oniwaban, but they are casualties in this conflict. They all sacrifice themselves to save Aoshi, but Kenshin, the whole reason that he was there was to save Megumi, and he saves her, and she gets to go home with them. He prevents her from killing herself, and so even though wires got crossed and people died, he succeeded in what he set out to do. So it was a success. And with Raijuta, the story is a lot less focused. You can tell that there is a little bit of meandering going on. There's like little parts in the story that just don't feel like it knows where it's gonna go next. And I think that you could really see that in the chapter where Raijuta sends out his men to go after Kenshin, because Kenshin defeats them easily, one swoop. And granted, in the video where we talk about that chapter, I talk about how the whole point of it, the whole purpose of the act, was to show Yutaro Kenshin's strength, and to show him that Yahiko wasn't just blowing smoke when he told him that Kenshin hadn't even been showing him his true power. The whole point of it was to kind of get Yutaro onto the Kenshin group, Kenshin Gumi's side. I mean, for that, it was successful, but like these underlings that were thrown in, they are throwaway characters, because once they're defeated, we never see them again. We don't even know what the result of it was. Does Kenshin and Kaoru, do they call the police? Are they arrested? Did they go back to Raijuta? By the end of the story, we find out that Raijuta hasn't killed anybody. He's never slain anyone. So if the group went back to Raijuta, does he just banish them? Like, the way that Raijuta was set up to be somebody who follows the philosophy of Satsujin Ken, if I'm saying that one correctly, I always mix up Ketsujin Ken and Satsujin Ken, is that if you lose a battle, you should die, because the point of swordsmanship is to kill or be killed. And so because Kenshin doesn't kill, and these people lost, obviously, like that type of logic would indicate that if these men returned to Raijuta, they would, they would die. And we never actually, we never find out. We don't know anything about this. Like I said, though, that the previous acts ended with death, even though it was considered a success. This arc ends with nobody having to die, as far as we know. But I don't think that anybody dies by the end of it. Even talking about Raijuta's men. But that's not to say that this arc was a success, because even though nobody died, Yutaro is the one that suffers the most in the end. And in my previous video, I talk about how, like, the first half of the chapter, it starts with this really somber feeling that they lost because of Yutaro's depression, him having to come to terms with his master not truly being the ideal man that he had in his head, and it, like, leading to Yutaro leaving. Like, he doesn't stick around at the end, and his father decides to take him to Germany. And with Yahiko coming in at the end and trying to beat the sad sack out of him, it's almost to kind of, like, remind us that, yeah, nobody died at the end. Sure, it sucks that this happened, but, like, life goes on, and we can't let life's tragedies bring us down. We have to roll with the punches and continue to fight another day. And in the case of Yutaro, that means learning to fight with your left hand and being the man, the true ideal man that he had in his head that Raijuta failed to be. And that's a good message to pull out of this arc, despite it being a failed arc. This is one of the things that I really like about this arc. And on that subject, Yahiko and Yutaro, like I said in the previous video, they really are the heart of all of this. Because it's between these two characters that, for one, Yahiko gets he gets some development. Prior to his bonus arc that we had in the before starting Raijuta, he had just mostly been a background character. We have a couple chapters that introduce him, and he kind of forces himself into the Oniwaban conflict, but he doesn't really do anything except for in that one chapter where they're storming Konryu's mansion. After Kenshin is inside the mansion, he and Sanosuke pretty much handle the rest of it, and Yahiko is mostly kind of like there to witness, and it's all building up to something eventually, but we're not there yet. We, as far as the readers go, we don't really know this yet. But Yahiko in this act, or in this arc, really has the time to shine. The inclusion of Yutaro allows for more Yahiko moments where he's not just a gag character, he's not just the one that's sitting there eating while the adults are discussing everything. And for that, I really like this arc, because Yahiko is my favorite character in the manga. As far as the manga goes, Yahiko has so far been my favorite character. He just seems so much more well-rounded, a lot more observant than he's let on. He's not as annoying as he comes across in the anime. He doesn't seem so kiddish. Like, he's still a kid, but he's also like his observation just elevates him past the point of just being the archetype kid that is part of the group, filling just that one role. And Yutaro being the complete opposite of Yahiko. And Watsuki actually says it in the Secret Life of Characters page for Yutaro, that he didn't even have a motif for Yutaro. He just really went off of the complete opposite of Yahiko. And once he said that, I could see it. Yahiko has spiky hair, Yutaro doesn't. Yahiko has like pointy eyes, which I pointed out in a video, and Yutaro has more rounded eyes, even to the way that they're dressed and their backgrounds. Yahiko is a proud swordsman who wants to live up to the way he saw his parents, the sacrifices that his parents made as a result of the Meiji. And Yutaro wants to stick it to his dad. He hates that his dad threw away the sword, and so he wants to be a strong, idealized man who fights for what he believes in rather than throwing away the sword and focusing on money and being a merchant. Especially coming at it from the angle that the merchant class at this point has a new role in the Meiji that it didn't have before, whereas in Edo they were really at the bottom of the totem pole because they were just merchants. They were just people who sold stuff. They weren't craftsmen in any way, shape, or form, which being a creator automatically puts you a step up in the totem pole, whereas if you're a merchant, you're just dealing merchandise and selling it, and you're at the bottom. Yutaro's dad is interesting because he has this unique role that we haven't yet seen in the Meiji, where up until this point, we have seen characters, good people in the Meiji. We've seen how they're suffering in the Meiji. The idea that the revolution isn't yet over because people are still being oppressed in the Meiji. We get to see how the Meiji is affecting them in like the shortcomings that the Meiji has yet to, I guess, address or has overlooked. Yutaro's father, he threw away the sword. He admits that he wasn't a very good swordsman to begin with, and he found some success by trading crafts. And I mean, granted, that's kind of what he had to do anyways, because the samurai had become obsolete in this new era. So he just adjusted. He rode the tide, and he found success in selling weapons to foreigners as a I guess delicacy or something. I wouldn't really know what you would call it, but he made bank. He succeeds in the Meiji where other people are being oppressed or haven't found their footing, or what have you. And granted, we can see this in Kanryu, but Kanryu is an evil character from the get-go. He's not supposed to be good. You're not supposed to feel good about his success, especially because it's coming at the expense of characters such as Megumi and Sanosuke's friend, who died from the opium that Kanryu was peddling, I guess. In the case of Yutaro's dad, we just have a good guy who cares about his family and is trying to provide for his family and give his family a good life. And he's been taken advantage of by evil men such as Raijuta. It's a unique angle, and I really like it for what it is. I guess the final thing that I want to talk about is something that I don't really like. And I'm not even talking about Raijuta. I don't really care about Raijuta. I've already kind of aired my grievances throughout this video series. But I feel like a missed opportunity in this arc was Kaoru. Because we're having this discussion of Setsujin Ken versus Satsujin Ken. The art of killing versus the art of revitalizing. And this is something that was set up in Act 1 with Kaoru preaching the Kamiya Kishin, wanting the sword to be seen as a tool to protect people. That first act ending with Kenshin coming into the dojo, taking down a few men, and saying that no, that is naive talk. Anybody who believes that is a person who's never slain anyone before. A sword is a tool to kill people. Right there, like, Kaoru's role in this arc is diminished more and more as the chapters go. She's the one that kind of introduced all of this. She's the one that took the whole group to Maekawa Dojo, and I think that Watsuki probably had intentions to have her fill a bigger role, and I could see where he attempted to use her, but ultimately by the end of it, she didn't really pan out. Because she stepped up to fight Raijuta, who already wanted to practice Satsujin Ken and trying to kill Maekawa. And she stepped up. Kenshin steps in instead. But after that, the next role that she fits is trying to take Yutaro in and introduce him to the Kamiya dojo and trying to recruit him. I like all of that, but I feel that that's kind of like secondary. Like, what she's doing is she's more so interacting with the secondary character in all of this, and that's Yutaro. I feel there could have been a way to have her included with Raijuta where it's a little bit more direct. Granted, I know that Raijuta had no interest in her and he was more so interested in Kenshin, but Kenshin, he already believes that the sword is a tool to kill people, and he would like for Kaoru's beliefs to become the norm. And I think that this could have just been an opportunity for Kaoru to kind of step up, and but in that case, it would have been more so Kaoru's antagonist, more so than Kenshin's. I don't know. I just feel like it could have been a unique angle had Kaoru been a little bit more at the forefront. Okay, so I realized what it was that I was stammering to say, in that I wanted Kaoru to be at the forefront challenging Raijuta's views, because we already know how Kenshin feels and that he already sees the sword as a weapon, and as Kaoru being somebody who uses wooden swords and is a prime believer in a sword that revitalizes people, the Katsujin Ken, having her go up against Raijuta and challenge his beliefs could have been a lot more interesting than what we actually got. And I think that was a big missed opportunity. But either way, Kaoru being the sensei to Yutaro and teaching him how to hold a sword and putting him right up next to Yutaro, I still very much like. I still like the role that she did fill in this arc. So it's not that I dislike Kaoru being in this arc or the way that she was handled. I just felt like maybe there could have been another angle where she could have had a bigger role. But either way, it's fine. Like I said, I still like a lot that was here in this arc. Just what I don't really like was some of the stuff that really had to do with Raijuta. And I can see why he's considered a failed villain or a failed character. But for now, this has been a reflections video on the Raijuta arc. What did you guys think of this video? What did you guys think of maybe having a discussion at the end and kind of reflecting on the previous chapters that we have read rather than focusing on them one at a time and moving forward? Kind of like taking everything that we discussed in the previous videos and then just kind of like filling them in whole. I don't know, let me know what you guys think down below. If you like this video and you want to see more, then consider subscribing to the channel, leave a thumbs up, and like I said, comment down below what did you guys think of this. What did you guys think of the arc in general? I know how people feel about Raijuta, I know how Watsuki feels about Raijuta, but like all of the other stuff that surrounded this arc, what did you guys think about it? I'd love to know. I certainly have taken a lot of time thinking about this. But for now, I'll see you guys next week where we cover Act 45. I think it's a bonus story with Sonosuke and his friend from the Sekihotai. And after that, we'll get into Kyoto. I'll see you guys then. Bye, ciao.